Hello, although today from the background it may look like I'm somewhere in the northern hemisphere, I'm actually totally the different direction. I'm very south down in New Zealand in a little city called Queenstown. Today we're going to be exploring one of my favourite essential oils, and that's Douglas Fir. Now of course Douglas firs are actually native to North America, but as you can see along here, they seem to be rather popular here as well. And that's because one bright spark decided it would be a great idea to bring Douglas firs to New Zealand. They thought they might grow well. They grow very well. In fact, they can grow up to 25 times faster, and here they become a pest. Because of the acidity in the needles, when they fall to the ground, they kill all the natural flora, and they have been basically spreading across the landscape and killing all the natural plants. So, we're going to explore today how two guys here in New Zealand have found a way to get rid of this pest and make an amazing essential oil, which, as I said before, has become one of my favorites. So journey with me today on a bit of an exploration on exploring the essential oil of Douglas fir created here in New Zealand.
Everything that you've sold in the last 3 years has been harvested here.
Oh, cool.
If you would have come here 3 years ago, all down below us was covered in pines completely. So we built these roads by the gate here. We built a road that goes down to the flat area you see, and we processed there for about a year. And because it's private land, we could work here during COVID. So we come up here and work and then shoot back. Yesterday, was it yesterday when we flew the helicopter, or the day before? Day before.
Yeah.
We were just down on the flat by those sheds. And the trees were coming from just further on. So we've been working from these beech trees here all the way along the bank and clearing this. So now in the summer he grazes his stock back up here and all the natives are regenerating. You can't see it this time of year, but there's little pools everywhere where there's native frogs and everything's coming back. And this farmer didn't want to spray, so he was really happy that we came in and harvested. Unfortunately with the snow you can't see the little seedlings, but now there's little pines about this big right through this area. Hey, quiet.
Good timing.
So, yeah, that's helpful. Come on. So basically you're looking east here, north this way. All this flank gets all the summer sun, which makes the juiciest, greenest trees with the best properties for our oil. So this has been about 3 years, and the oil before that was coming from up here, where there's no trees left. In that area we would walk and cut and drag the trees down by hand. It was not very much fun, but it produced good oil. So we'll be carrying on along that embankment probably for another year, and then this will be done and we'll move to a new area. Obviously this is our chipper. The trees you saw yesterday or the other day come down, land on the flat. You then untie them all, delimb them all, and then feed them by hand into the chipper. It goes through the top chute. The bottom door is closed when we chip, obviously. Fill the trailers completely. The trailers are food grade stainless with plumbing in the bottom. You're welcome to go out and poke around in there. So when it's plugged into the boiler, the steam comes in the sides, which you can't see. This Michael will show you a little steam inlet. Yeah. So we built these. Michael and I sort of invented these. So we got them made here, and they're a trailer and a still at the same time. Very good. So the steam comes out through the pipes, through the material, up through the top. There's 2 holes in the top of the trailer where the condensers are connected to. So the condensed Douglas fir vapor, as it were, comes up through the holes, down the lines into the condensers where it gets condensed back into liquid, and the oil and water separate. And then the essencers on the still, which you'll see, the oil rises to the top and you decant it off. So that goes on. We do 2 trailers at a time. The 2 trailers get filled, towed back here. We'll show you how they go into the boiler, onto this distiller. And that process goes on day after day. When they're finished distillation, these trailers get driven up to the back of the property here, and these have a hydraulic ram, so they tip. We tip out the chip, and then it's mixed with the food waste that you've been through all that, haven't you?
Yeah, the basket.
The baskets are blessing all the compost, and then that makes a hot compost, then goes back into the reforestation, the replanting of the trees.
So I've got a containerized boiler here that's running 8 bar of steam pressure. It's 1.2 megawatts. And what happens is the 2 trailers are normally parked in here, and then they plug into the steam, which I'm about to show you how much flow there is. But yeah, you go on the other side too. I'll get a picture. Yeah, cool. So what I'm going to do is just show you, as part of my cleaning process, sometimes I let all the steam come out of the unit, and so I'll do that first, and then I'm going to throttle the whole thing back down, and then we can run a little mini still. So yeah, be aware there's going to be some action. Everyone? Everyone feeling safe? Yeah. Yeah. Generally, the process of distilling is also about compression. So you want, and that's why the chipping process can be quite useful, because you actually want it to be of a certain density when you're distilling, because if it's too loose, the steam can just float through the plant material and not catch it on the way up. But then the other extreme is, like, for example, with the roses and all the jasmines and so forth, is that they can actually compress and turn into like a solid. So they have to kind of layer their materials. But so that's a good kind of example.
That's just the leaves. Oh, chip.
Yeah. So normally we chip the leaves, the needles, to get a slightly higher density, and that just means basically you're being more efficient. You are using less fuel.
And baby trees, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a couple of examples over by the hut there, and sorry, gotta get that on the other side. And under pressure from filming, aren't I? So the way that's there because that's going to enable. This is going to flip over, and that enables a consistent amount of steam to penetrate into the plant material. So now I'll just put this is on that way. Oh. There's some free frozen goodies.
Did you build this, Michael?
Yeah, I worked with a guy to get it built. So the other interesting thing about New Zealand is we had zero distillation industry. So everything we did, we had to do ourselves. You know, there's no one to rely on, no one who knew anything. So it kind of meant that everything we've done, we've had to do from scratch. So that's been interesting in itself. That comes back down, but it's a nice little system. So that now means the steam, which I'll connect into here, will come up through the plant material, and I'll just plug this back in. And so the steam with the essential oil is going to come through here, and this is the condensing. So this is where it cools down back to water and essential oil. And I've got a expensive, delicate little bit of glass that I'll put on the bottom. I'll do now.
Do you want to still stand back a bit?
So I still use this as a trial distillation unit. So we can do a lot of basically the back of the Hilux, or as you can see, the back of the truck ends up being an amount that I can test. So sometimes if I see something that I think could be an interesting oil, I'll collect it. And for example, an arborist had arbor vitae, a tree, but it was mainly the needle and it was chipped. And I was like, I'll give that a go. But it smelled a bit different to the normal arbor vitae because it was more the needly stuff rather than the wood, which is what I think is generally used in Canada. So what I'm just doing here is making sure I don't lose any oil. So I just fill that with some water. So That's where the hydrosol, so when you talk about like rose water or lavender water, that's when that gets going, that's the equivalent of what that is. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, you could. So this will take a. So what's going to happen now, just from a health and safety perspective, is these metal pipes. This is going to become melt your hand hot. So don't touch anything that's metal, as a rule of thumb. So I'm just going to. But the cool thing also about this process is that if you imagine I've just done a big distillation with 8 tons of Douglas Fir. I don't know if Maturan said, but we kind of try and process up to 1,000 wilding pines a week when we're in full mush. And so, so what I can actually do is at the end of the distilling process, I can use the waste steam out of the end of the process to just run this little still to do a little trials and stuff like that, which is quite nice. So don't waste anything. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is just not put that amount of steam that you just saw coming out before. I'm going to just crack a wee bit of steam into this. Yeah, like I say, that metal, don't touch any metal parts. It'll just get a bit hot. Now, it will take probably 5 to 10 minutes. Don't know yet, because it's all hot and cold and all these other variables going on. But yeah, you can see the steam's now entering the space, and I had issues with the frozen water. But I'm going to see if I can get the steam is now, that's hot, and it's going to get cooler and cooler as it comes down the process. And oh, so you're not trying to move around. And so we are. Oh, and sooner or later, I might even try to. See if I can. Right, yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's my crying baby.
So it's just starting to get little bubbles of essential oil. What I can do with my torch is.
I'll share this in the group for anyone that wants a really good place.
If I get rid of the, but you can start to see there's little, sorry for everyone who's on different angles, but the essential oil is starting to capture just in here, and it will, it's lighter than water, so it will rise to the surface. Sorry, I'll just get in the, and then you can see the bubbles are starting to rise at the bottom, and then this is the hydrosol componentry, which is the water that has had most of the oil separated from it.
So this is a 5 ml bottle. Yeah. To make a 5 ml bottle of essential oil, you need this size tree. So all that, when it's steam distilled and we've watched the process, comes down to a little 5 ml precious goodness.